I appreciate the testimony for all of our witnesses today. And if we could just put up the display that I want to use just for reference. As I mentioned, one of the challenges we have is, to summarize, we've gone from a measurement of operational control in 2010. I know that's small, but where we basically said, you said 44% of the border was under operational control. Abandoned that, went to apprehension numbers, which Ms. Gambler pointed out that's just a numerator, right? That just tells you how many people you've apprehended without an understanding of the denominator. So now, as of a year ago, you're trying to do some level of denominator, which includes those that got away, right? Those that you detected that got away. But if you look up here, again, at the display, if 100, I'm just trying to simplify it and talking about situation awareness, if 100 people cross the border illegally, you are still measuring, as an example, if you detected 60 of them, you're measuring how many apprehended and how many got away or turned back of that 60. So that could come out to, hey, we are at an 80% interdiction effectiveness. But the concern of this committee and the concern of my constituents is, what about the other 40? They're not included in the denominator at all, because we don't necessarily know that it's even 40 of them. We don't know what that number is, right? So until we have a sense of true understanding of a denominator, we're not going to be able to know our effectiveness. So look, I'm a fighter pilot. I'm trying to simplify this as best I can, although I know it's kind of complex. We have 1,954 miles of the southern border. It seems to me you all could come back to us with an answer of that 1,954 miles, X amount of miles we have situational awareness of. I don't know what that number is. Is it 200? Is it 1,500? We know if anything moves across the border, we are going to detect it. We know exactly what's happening, and we're going to detect it. And then the second piece is, can we actually intercept it? And that's the effectiveness thing. So the American people don't know what that number is. We don't know what that number is. So Chief Vitiello, do you understand the challenges that we have with not really understanding the denominator? And number two, can you tell me today, of the 1,954 miles, what percent do you feel you have 100% situational awareness of? Like, what is that number?
Thanks for that question. I won't sit here today and tell you that we know exactly.
Are you,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for that question. I won't sit here today and tell you that we know exactly what the denominator is. That's something that we have been trying to accomplish with regard to effectiveness. And I'm reminded of Eisenhower's words to the military that plans are useless, but the effort of planning is essential, because it puts your team in a place where they can rapidly adjust to changing circumstances. And so what we've done over the last several years is signed ourselves up through the GEPRA measures. It's pinned into the foundation of the Government Performance Results Act, right, a requirement that Congress set for us. We looked at what was there that we could use, and we tried to strengthen our ability to measure effectiveness at the border. So when an agent has an encounter, when an entry is noticed, how many people are apprehended in that encounter, and what are the results of people who either ran back across the border or were eventually got away. So I can't say that that is a perfect endeavor, because it's done by human beings. Well, what I can say is that we have a systematic protocol that allows agents to assess zone by zone, line by line at the border, talk about how many entries, record those entries, and then record the encounters as they see them in real time. There are lots of places, as you know, they're very rural, very remote. It's difficult for us to access the border. But what we try to do is we have a systematic way of recording entries and then subtracting what happens after the encounters, either got away, turned back, or apprehended. And then we put that math together and we sign ourselves up for the effectiveness rate.
I get that. That's all in the bottom part of that bracket there. That's you trying to adequately measure those that you've detected. Have you intercepted them, or did they get away, right? Just
right,
to understand.
but there's an assessment line for every part of the border. It's not just the entries that we see or know about. There are places where we can see entries in real time because of the deployment, because of the fixed towers, because of the mobile technology that agents have. For their own observations, they're at the line and they see people come across. So all of that activity is recorded, the ones that are seen and the ones that are not seen but have left evidence of the entry.
Right, but that's still all in the denominator there. So, or in the bottom part of the bracket there. So, of that, you said you were at an 81% effectiveness rate last year, right? Is that based on that analysis?
What we do for the recording, yes, okay. that gets us to 81% for the year.
But do you have any sense of what the real denominator is?
Not perfectly.
Okay. And of the 1,954 miles of the southern border, can you give us a sense of what percentage or what number of miles you feel you have situational awareness to the point that if something comes across, you know it? You may not be able to intercept it, but you know it.
So about 56% of the border is, we kind of segment the border into two specific categories of all the things that we do, not just on the effectiveness rate, but all the things that we're trying to record. About 56% of the border is deployed in a way that agents and or our technology can see activity in real time.
Okay, 56%. Thank you. Ms. Gambler, my line of questioning, do you have anything to add to that to provide our situational awareness?
Sure. I think a couple of things. I think the situational awareness piece, is very important in terms of being able to get a sense of the reliability of the information and the measures that that CBP does report out, that Border Patrol does report out. The other thing that I would add in terms of the measures is in thinking about the interdiction effectiveness rate that Border Patrol is using now. As we've reported, it's important not just to kind of look at what the percentage is, whether it's 81% or something else, but also to look at sort of the makeup of that interdiction effectiveness rate, because Border Patrol is counting in the numerator apprehensions plus turnbacks, and so as we've reported in the past, differences and changes in turnbacks and gotaways over time can have an impact on what that ultimate interdiction effectiveness rate is. And so in some of our past work, we've reported on not just the effectiveness rate, but also the apprehension rate, which is looking at how many arrests Border Patrol actually makes relative to the overall estimated known illegal entries.
Great, and my time's up, but the part of the numerator of their effectiveness rate includes those like unaccompanied children and people who have turned themselves in at the border. They haven't necessarily been apprehended, right? They've just turned themselves in. That's part of the numerator, Chief?
We record all the encounters and all the outcomes.
But is that part of your effectiveness numerator?
It would be in part of that math, yes.
Okay, great. My time's well expired, so I want to now recognize Ranking Member, Mr. Higgins.